Not a bad day. Suppose we should check lactate. Let's we'll jog to the bottom here.
Nice.
So 3.0, that's the first time in weeks, months that I've actually felt good. I was probably feeling good on the run last night, which probably got me excited. I think I put on Strava, I had visions of winning Dublin, which was kind of a joke. But today, for once in a while there, just felt good. That same pace last week, I think the lactate was 5 or 6 or something stupid, and you start questioning everything, getting all upset about it. But today just felt good again, where there was like power in the legs, stride was good, form felt good. I felt like I could pick it up if I needed to. And I think it goes to show sometimes you just have to be patient, and there is this bullshit like trust the process, but funny enough, when you just keep ticking those boxes and you keep showing up, you can see that it can get to a better place. So I'm gonna go home, dry off, shower, and then we'll talk about how today went.
All right, so that was today's session, down in the park, in Bushy Park. Is a absolutely minging day for it, but I wanted today to be just more about the running journey, and I did quote there, like, finally I had a good day, or I could tell in the first rep. I think I said I'll start at like 5:15 per mile, and then for context it ended up being maybe like 5:03, and I feel like I've almost had this like intimidated feeling when I'm going to training lately, because I've found maybe the effort a bit hard work, or I just haven't found the paces have been flowing the way maybe they often have in the past. And it hasn't stopped me from knowing that the only way to sort of get things to a good place is to persist and keep doing it and keep showing up, and I think it's really helped that I've added in some sort of like steady running again. I honestly believe there's a huge lift to that, and I think it was I posted a video about that lately, but I think it's now been like 3-4 weeks where I've actively had steadier days back in the program, and that's really maximizing the training that you're doing each week and not just pinpointing days. I think the advantage of bulking the week as a whole is you're just making more use of your time when you're out there running. And today was great because I haven't felt great in training, and sometimes like you go through periods of that, and I felt like I've been in that period I didn't sort of realize how long I've been in that sort of slump, maybe you could call it. And honestly, forgive me when I say slump, because I understand you're going to look at paces of things and think like, what is he going on about? And that's sadly the small margins with, elite sport. And you can run at 5:10 per mile and it's, I think, a 2:16 marathon, or you can run at 4:58, 4:57 and it's sub 2:10, right? And so there's small margins, but it's just more, there hasn't been a great feeling. I haven't felt great in a long time. And instantly I sort of knew within that sort of first rep today that there was just a better feeling. And so the session itself was 3 times 10 minutes, and you're trying to run at what nowadays we'll call sort of zone 4, LT2 basically. You can probably call it threshold if you want. I believe this is like the true threshold, because you've kind of got like lower threshold, which is like aerobic steady state. But to me, any period of training, and instead of going too scientific, but any period of training where I was doing 45 to 60 minutes per week in what I'm going to say zone 4 or LT2, anaerobic threshold, or basically for me, because it's around that sort of 60-minute area, it was always that half marathon-y type effort. And anytime I was spending 45 to 50, 60 minutes in that area per week, running got to a pretty good place. And I really mean that. And you could do that in different ways. Obviously today I did 3 times 10 minutes. You can do 10 minutes on the front end of a session, and then you can do some VO2 reps or 10K effort reps, and then you could add maybe 10 minutes to the end of a session. Or you could add it into a long run on a Sunday. You do your 60, 70 minutes, and then maybe you do 20 minutes at half marathon effort, or 4 times 5 minutes, or 2 times 10. Always aiming for that 45 to 60 minutes per week. But That's probably another little area that has started to come back into my program, and I've started working a bit more on that, because why as a human would you do things that work the first time round? Better to make a mess of it, and then the second time round, or maybe the 15th, I don't know what time I'm on now, but yeah, we tend to make a mess of things first and then fix things. But it's been nice to bring that back in. It was really nice that it felt good today. Sort of like talking you through that session, it was a case of I was trying to keep it. I think you can train sort of like two ways. One would be you're going to go quite scientific driven, and you're going to monitor intensity, whether it's heart rate or whether it's lactate that I have the beauty of measuring. You can go really scientific, which means you're limited to, you can only go to a certain heart rate, or you're limited to, I need to keep the effort here because otherwise the lactate reader's going to get pissed off. But today I went for intensity. The other way I think you can train is like to just say like, you know what, and this is kind of what I did last week, which is why there was a comparison. Like I ended up at the same speed this week, which was awesome. But a week ago, I was at the same speed, but the intensity was almost double. The heart rate wasn't double, obviously, but when you get to that top end of heart rate, 5-10 beats is a pretty big increase in intensity. And the two ways there would be, one time intensity control I think can be really important, probably especially if things haven't been feeling great. And then there is a period and time and place, you could say, for I've done the scientific stuff, I've been really sort of good with it, I've been really disciplined with it. And actually today I'm going to prioritize pace, right? And that's when you're like, I want to break 3 hours for the marathon. This is the pace of 3 hours for the marathon. I need to start getting used to running at this pace. I need to, it might throw the intensity up a bit for now, but maybe in time the two will come together. Maybe in time this pace will become the right intensity. And so for today's purposes, it was very intensity driven. I didn't know what the pace was going to be. And I found even though the weather's very interesting, but I found I got into a pretty good rhythm, and I knew there was a good feeling, and the good feeling is like I could pick the effort up if I needed to. There was sort of like a bit of strength to me again. My flow was a bit better, you could say, because I've had some physio on the right hip, and that's starting to loosen up a bit more. But it wasn't like, oh my God, this was the best session ever, now I'm going to enter a race, right? It wasn't quite that feeling. But it was more of a, like, thank goodness I haven't, like, completely lost it. And that was, like, reassuring that it was kind of, I didn't expect things to get truly better until the end of next week. Because normally it takes 2 weeks after altitude before things really settle down for me. And literally look at what's just happened. In the space of 4 or 5 days, I've ran at the same pace, but lactate's dropped from, I think, like 6 maybe, down to like 3. Like, it's half. That's not fitness changes, that's the body slowly coming back to sea level and finding itself, and that takes time. But actually there's probably room for another 5-6 days, and then I'm going to feel even better when I get to 2 weeks down from altitude. That's normally when I really start to feel not better, because if I'm not fit I'm not going to feel great, but there's no excuses anymore. That's the bottom line. So I didn't necessarily expect that session to go great. I wasn't sure, because altitude's so bloody awkward with what day you are after altitude, but I was so happy that it felt nice. I think if there's any advice in there, it's just one thing I've learned is, and I think this speaks fact, the only way for things to get better is to kind of keep going. You might have to change things, you might have to make subtle changes, you might have to run a bit easier, you might have to run a bit harder, maybe you haven't been running hard enough, and you might have to do some sessions that you've been neglecting, and now suddenly you need to bring those back in because they really help. But the fact of the matter is, when you stop because things aren't going great, and I mean stop as in get fed up and maybe take a break, you have zero chance of it getting better. Zero. But when you persist a little bit, it can suck. Sometimes you don't know how much it sucked until a day goes a bit better. And I think that's what I felt yesterday. I sort of just felt that having gone that little bit better, that then I got a sort of feeling for, wow, I guess lately I haven't been loving it. I guess lately I haven't been excited to go train because it hasn't felt like it's going great. And I guess you have to ride that wave, if that's such a thing, you know, and just get through that sort of like shitty period, get through that stormy period, get through that like, oh, running's hard work for me at the minute, you know, running's not going the way I want it to, I'm not hitting the pace as I want to, there's no way I'm going to achieve my next goal. Get through that. That's the learning to dance in the rain, literally. Get through that. And on the other side, you know, sometimes it can come good. But I can promise you that if you don't try to persist through that, there's zero chance that it will come good, because the second you give up on it, you've literally no chance of it, you know, getting a bit better. And so today was a real good feeling. It was nice to be flowing again. It was nice to be, you know, running at a pace that right now I'm really hating life a little bit on, not social media, but Strava and things like this, because you're constantly seeing what else is out there, what else is being done, and then sometimes like it can become daunting that it's like, well, you know, maybe when I did those K reps, you know, the other day, it's like I know what other people are doing for K reps and what their stupid lactate is, and it can get disheartening. You know, I think there's a lost art, you could probably say, to like, you know, back in the day when you just went in the park and you just got a session done. Like, you know, I know it's a different training day to today, but you know, there I was on Tuesday it was, and I was doing those sort of like harder VO2 reps, and I couldn't help but compare to what I see online, or compare to, you know, what I know I've maybe done even previously, and it's just so irrelevant. All you have is what you're working with right now, and then you can have ideas or theories or experience, if that's what you want to call it, and those can help you get it to a better place, but it's always just a better place for you at that exact moment in time, because you could be held back by things that you just don't have control of, but all you have control of is that attitude towards the training. And so maybe like things even went a little bit better because I had that thought process on Tuesday where it was like, that's enough of that, that's enough of this comparing to previous times, that's enough comparing to others, and the attitude shifts a bit. And then you're going in the park on today, and the weather sucks, and you're not sure how it's going to go, but you're just like, it's all good. We're just here to get it done. We're here to do our 3 times 10 minutes. We're going to run at the right intensity. We're going to check that intensity at the end, and we're going to see what the lactate is and make sure we nailed it. And then we're going to move on. And what we're not going to do is, you know, get angry that it's not a certain speed, or that we're not hitting a certain pace because somebody else did it, or because our younger or previous self did it quicker. No, we're just going to get it done, trust that things will pay off, and just keep moving forward. And I think when you stop having faith in that, that's when you make changes to the training constantly. You're changing this, you're changing that, and then it's like, well, how do you know if you keep changing everything what's actually working? You know, are things going better, or are they not? And then you can't sort of nail down, well, even if it doesn't work, even if the training that you've set doesn't work, if you've at least stuck to it, at least you learn that it doesn't work. But I think when you get frustrated and the psychology starts to shift a bit, that's when you make the changes. And then you're really unsure, was it the training not working, or was it that you changed things that it didn't work? And so I'm really sticking to, you know, what's sort of planned for now, and that's really building that base phase, banking a lot of sort of time, 45 to 60 minutes per week in this sort of like thresholdy area, or this half marathon effort, trying to bulk up on some of those steady days and make sure that I'm still doing the VO2 work that I've preached about, that, you know, can push things along. Keeping it really simple, if there is such a thing, but just trying to keep it simple. Simplify things, execute it really well, and then see if it works, see if it pays off, you know, and that's really all we can do. But I'm happy with how today went. It's great that I've had help, you know, filming some of this stuff, and so I don't have to focus on that myself. I'm really getting excited and motivated to push towards like another big effort towards a big marathon, you know, and I think I really owe it to myself to wipe the excuses out, whether it's, you know, teeth infections, whether it's having to run most of the race solo, train solo. I'm going to put a structure and plan in place that will allow for a great result. It might not create a great result, but with all those things in place, I'll be able to, you know, live with myself on the other side no matter how it goes. So put the right things in place, give yourself the best chance, eliminate excuses, and then see how it goes. So brilliant, you know, day today, probably average just under 5 minutes, which is great. Ran at the exact intensity that I wanted to. It doesn't say, get me in a race really soon, I'm ready to crush it, but at least things are getting back to neutral ground, and now we can build on that. That's exciting. Plenty of plans, merchandise actually on joggingclo.com. This is I call it coffee run club. It's, you know, have a coffee, go for a run, good times. There's also training plans and all sorts of advice, tips, tutorials on joggingroom.com. You can, you know, check that out. It helps support the channel. More videos like this coming because now I have some help filming. But take care, be really good to yourself. Don't get too bogged down if things aren't going the way you want it to. You never know when it's just about to flip.